Shout out to Heroes. You can catch it on Peacock. Subscriptions start at $7.99 for the premium and
I don't know if we can
$13.99
air
for
this.
1-2. Swinging a drive toward right center. Back goes Robert. Back near the stands. That ball is gone. A game-winning home run for Chris Burrell. Can you believe it? Listen to this crowd.
Welcome back to the Brotherly Cubs podcast. I am your little brother, Zach, and that is my big brother, John. We are your brothers who love everything Cubs baseball. If you enjoy the Chicago baseball, then hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and join us every week as we dive into the 2024 season of the typical middle child, which is third place out of 5 of the National League Central.
We like to start off each podcast with a playful question for all 104 of our subscribers. Before we get to that question, we like to shout out to all of you for listening to us talk everything Cubs baseball. Today, Zach, I ask you, if you had the power to heal one Cub for the rest of the season, who would you heal? And of course, this is an allusion to the character Linderman on the show Heroes, played by Malcolm McDowell. Shout out to Heroes. You can catch it on Peacock. Subscriptions start at $7.99 for the premium and
I don't know if we can
$13.99
air
for
this. If I had,
we are not sponsored by Peacock.
John wants to be.
Yes.
If I could, it's tough to choose between one. I would say either I'll probably go with Yency Almonte, which may not be a popular answer, but he was a stud.
I did not see that coming at all.
Absolute
Completely
stud.
forgot about him.
He had good control early on in the season, or I should say, after he had a little bit of bad control after a while, like the first month, and he started to taper it, get his command honed in. And once he did, dude, that sinker was disgusting. And then compared to the sweeper, it's like, you talk about tunneling a pitch. If you can tunnel a sinker going in on the righty on the bat versus a sweeper going off the plate, like that's filthy. I wish he was back in this bullpen because it would be incredible.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. My mind went to Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, like, even fully healed, he was still kind of struggling, you know? So, I mean, even if we fully heal him and waste that opportunity, I don't know if it'll really, if he'll improve his approach. It seems like his approach has gotten different this year compared to last year. Like, he's, like, his just two strike approach is different. So,
yeah, I think right now the biggest thing for him is getting healthy. And so maybe with these off days built in here, it's like the first off day Sunday in almost like 90 years, like over 90 years.
mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a weird baseball Sunday today, right? We're used to if it's Wrigley, there's an early game at 1:20. If it's on ESPN, it's at 6 here Central Time. A lot of games on Sunday are on early anyways, but it just has a weird feeling if there's no Sunday baseball, but there are minor league baseball games to watch.
Yeah, I saw that.
If you're interested in that.
Yeah. CHGO had tweeted out a couple things. One of them was that, they hadn't had a Sunday off or something like that in, like, I don't know, 90 years or 100 years or something like that. And I thought that was a joke, but maybe that is true.
Legit. It's because it's Monday and Thursday are the typical off days. Monday is also an off day for minor league baseball.
And then I saw that they had also tweeted out, like, what do we do now? Like, and then you were like, well, watch the kids on Iowa or something like that.
Yeah. And shoot, while we're talking about it, instead of breaking it down later with the roster updates, why don't we just talk about it now before we get into the show notes and the meat and potatoes of the podcast? But the Cubs added top 100 prospects, infielders James Triantos and Matt Shaw, and outfielder Kevin Alcantara to the Iowa Cubs AAA roster, which is obviously very exciting. Two of them, Shaw and Triantos, have struggled a bit, but Alcantara he's got a couple home runs already. So awesome for him because he's been having a bit of a roller coaster season, but he's already looking pretty comfortable out there. Hopefully those three can really make a name for themselves as they're getting deeper into their minor league careers already.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he had his second home run, yesterday or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's looking a little bit better than Triantos, right? I think he's only had like 1 or 2 hits in this since he's been called up, I think he was struggling a little bit.
Right.
So, anyways, let's do a recap of the previous games since we've been gone. The Cubs are now sitting at 59-60, only one game back of 500. That's awesome. They've won 8 of their last 10, including 4 in a row, and they had actually swept the Sox in 2 separate 2-game series versus them, and that's the first time that's happened in what? Oh, no, it's not the first time. It's like what, the third time? I think in a long time it's happened. The last time it happened was a while ago. So
Yeah, sweeping. Yeah, I mean, normally
sweeping, yeah.
they might play 6 games in total or 5 between 5 and 6. So playing, that's that weird off day that we got was due to the Crosstown Cup, right?
Yeah.
And getting those built-in off days in case there's rainouts and things like that. But yeah, it's weird. Had an off day, 2 games, another off day. So it made it a little easier for the Cubs to sweep, right? And then this is historically one of the worst White Sox teams in history.
Right. We
They
should.
just lost 20 games in a
Yeah.
row.
They should be sweeping them, yeah. So as a recap, they took 3 of 4 from the Cardinals. About a week ago, they took 2 of 3 from the Twins, and then of course they swept the Chicago White Sox 2-0. So it was what, 7-6, I think, on Friday, and then 3-1 on Saturday. If I'm going by, if my memory serves me correctly, there. The Cubs will need Ben Brown and Jordan Wicks as they continue this stretch run here towards the playoffs. I got a chance to look at Jordan Wicks's line at Iowa. I was just like, God, man! Like his first inning, I guess his first inning was really good, and his second inning, he just kind of imploded. And he gave up like what, 2 home runs or 3 home runs, something like that.
Oh, I
It
thought
was
he only had.
bad.
Yeah, I thought so most of his hits were home runs, and that explains why it was so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. No, I mean he was cruising. He was cruising right along, and then just really started to struggle. So that's a little bit concerning, especially when we want him to come back and replace someone like Javier Assad, possibly,
Mm-hmm.
who will be pitching in that Guardian series. And so, yeah, a little bit of a downer there for Jordan Wicks last night.
Well,
But
silver lining though, I mean, he threw 43 pitches, which is about where you'd want him to go. I mean, I was happy that he got up to that pitch count.
at least
So
he got
obviously,
some work in.
yeah, he pitched terribly,
Yeah.
but he needs to see live. He hasn't. I mean, let's be honest here. This guy has just not been healthy this year. Like
Yeah.
he had what, a forearm strain that kept him out longer than, oh, he'll be a minimum stint, and it was like a
Yeah.
month, and then it was, oh, he's healthy again, and then he freaking
His
tore his
oblique or something.
muscle.
Yeah.
So oblique strain, and that's another almost 2 months at this point, or maybe it's a month and a half. So if you're missing half the season, it's gonna be really hard to get into rhythm. So you're right, it's concerning, but the pitch count is good that he got up there.
Yeah.
They might get him up maybe up to 60, 65 next time. And then if he pitches well, they're going to look for that first and getting above 60 pitches. And then if he can get back at over 70 in the major leagues, then you could sort of piggyback Assad with him. No love lost, no issues there in terms of your bullpen is still going to be, the bullpen's been pitching well. And then Assad could pitch a couple innings, 2 or 3 innings, almost as much as he normally does
Mm-hmm.
on regular rest with Wicks. And that would allow Wicks to get back ramped up sooner if he feels better next outing.
We're going to get into it, but we'll look at some of the upcoming opponents for the Cubs. But I think if they can just get them back, they can get Ben Brown and Jordan Wicks back for September. I think that'll be huge for their playoff push, assuming that they're still in it.
Right.
Their offense though has definitely started to click more, and has put up a lot more runs. Besides that the White Sox game, the second game, that was just kind of like, man, it seems like Flexen is, any game that I watch with Chris Flexen, it's like he does really well against the Cubs. I can't explain it, but he has like a 2-11 record or something like that, like a 5+ ERA.
Yeah.
So it's just confusing. But besides that start, the Cubs have really put it together offensively. I'm just kind of noting here, first and second wild cards obviously seem to be out of the running. Possibly the division. I mean, the division more so than the first and second wild cards. Where the Cubs are really looking at that third wild card spot. So we're going to take a look at their path as we go towards the end of the season for making that third wild card spot and sneaking into the playoffs. So the Cubs' next opponents, we have the Guardians, and I have them losing that series. I mean, obviously in a good, in the best case scenario, they would sweep them, but or even just win the series. But they're difficult. I mean, they're a really good team. They have a really good bullpen. What do you think, Zach? How do you think they're going to take this series?
I actually think they could win the series because the starters, I guess, are 24th in starter ERA. So the offense has been clicking. If they can get to the starters early, kind of like, so I'm trying to think what series. I guess against the Cardinals, that was more the plan, right? Was get to the starter early, or maybe even the Twins too, because the Twins also have a good bullpen. Those two series, the plan was to get to the starter early and do not be behind when you're facing the bullpen. So same plan against the Guardians. Do not go into Cleveland, right? Going to Cleveland. Short little flight, puddle hopper, whatever you call it, little flight to Cleveland. Do not go in there and score 3 runs like you did against the White Sox, and do not magically have a 7-0 lead and squander that.
Oh my God.
It would have been the worst loss, like maybe in history in the regular season, if they would have lost the Sox. But
I mean, it's right up there with that Padres game, like.
Yeah, it was close, but so just keep your head on your shoulders and just kind of do what you've been doing. There's nothing fancy that needs to be done. This is a good team, as good as the Twins. So a little bit better than the Twins, but they haven't been as awesome as. It's not like they've been on fire recently. They've been slumping a little bit, so take advantage of that. Right, that's what I would say for that series.
Yeah, I agree. They've been slumping a little bit, not playing as good of a game as they can play. So they're beatable. I mean, we swept the Orioles for Christ's sake. So I mean, if we can sweep the Orioles, the offense is definitely capable, and so I do want to see him play Bethancourt more. So hopefully he gets some more starts there. He can do some damage. Next up, we have the Blue Jays. So after the Guardians of the Blue Jays, I have them winning that series 2-1. Any thoughts there?
No, I mean, you can probably go through all of them.
Yeah, okay. It's going to take a while.
Do you want to talk about all 30 teams of the major leagues?
Yes. It's actually what I really wanted to do, but I wasn't sure.
We can save that for like the October podcast when we're out of the playoffs, or the November podcast when we're not signing anybody and we're just talking about free agents. We can be like, hey, let's talk about the best teams teams for the Cubs to emulate. But yeah, you can go through your
we'll do a 2025 preview for all 30 teams.
Right.
It won't take long at all.
Yeah.
The Tigers. So just going through it. The Tigers, I have us sweeping that. We should sweep the Tigers. Although, Screwball, I don't know about I'm not sure if we'll face him. Tariq Screwball. I don't know how to say his name.
Tariq or something like that.
Tariq.
He's white, by the way.
I know. You never know. Marlins, Tariq. Marlins, I think they'll sweep them. I think, especially since they've gotten rid of their bullpen. Or no, was it Tanner Scott? They got rid of AJ Puck.
Yep.
Or Puke. I don't know how
it's Puck.
Pirates, I have them winning that series. I think that'll be a really difficult series, though. I think that'll, 'cause most likely we'll face either Jones or, my mind is running blank.
Skeens,
yeah. So, which are two beasts, really. And so, that'll be a difficult series, but I think they'll win. I think they'll win that series 2-1. Phillies, I have them losing that series. So I am, trying to be optimistic here, but I'm also a realist.
Right.
I think we go to Philly. Yeah.
Good place to hit, bad place to just be if you're they've been really good this year.
Yeah, so that's going to be a difficult series. So if we could at least take one of those games, I think that'd be a win. I mean, theoretically, it'd be a win if we're taking one game, but
yeah.
Yankees, I have us losing that series again. I think they come. No, I think we're going to New York. I have to check that. No, I think New York is coming to us because I think
Rizzo would be
Rizzo
back,
would be
right? Yeah.
yeah. So that'll be in Chicago. So I mean that'll make it a little bit better. But Yankees of course have an insanely great lineup offensively, and I'm sure we'll face Garrett Cole at some point in that series. So I have us losing that. Dodgers, I have us losing 1-2. So we'll take one game there. Rockies, we should win 2-1, if not sweep. Although it is really difficult to do to sweep the Rockies in Colorado. A's will be a sweep. The Oakland A's, soon to be Sacramento. And Nationals, we actually play them two different. I'm kind of going a little bit out of order. We play the Nationals somewhere in between. I think it was Pirates and Phillies or something. But we have two series versus the Nationals. One is a 4-game set, and the other is a 3-game set. I have us winning a total of 5 games to 2 there.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's 3 of 4, and then 2-1, or 4 games and then 4-game sweep, or and then one win in the other 3-game set. But they should win 5 out of those 7 games.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, pretty optimistic. The Nationals can hit. The Reds, I have them winning that series. I think that's one of our last series. Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Is it that's the last one, right? In September?
Yeah, that is the last series. That's the last team we play. So,
and I have us winning that 2-1. Obviously,
for the viewers, this is a path to the playoffs.
This is a path to the playoffs.
They may not be able to see our screen.
A lot of games.
This is not a prediction. I think you and I both, just to put a bow, this is a good job, by the way, putting this together, because I've been pretty drained the last couple of weeks just with work. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But mentally, I kind of had the same ideas that they'd have to go about 26-17. And I think you and I both were like, let's do this podcast if the Cubs sweep these 2 winnable games against the Sox, which they did. And I think that's about, doing a quick standings check, that's about what they'd have to finish at least at a minimum would be 84 games, but 85 gets you.
85, I think, gets you into the 3rd wild card spot.
Now, the Braves and Mets are actually tied. They're only 61-56, only 5 games over. Right. But you're right. If you finish 8 over, that should get you pretty close to that 3rd spot. If both those teams, either of them goes on a run, at least you'd be right up there with them. I shouldn't say a run, but if they finish above 500 the rest of the way.
We have a path. I mean, just September is where I think September is when we face the Yankees and the Dodgers, and I think the Phillies.
August is easy.
August is relatively easy. Yeah, they got the Tigers and Marlins mixed in there. The Blue Jays are like kind of
not good. I mean, they're
not great. They're not terrible.
They're one of the worst teams in the AL East right now. I mean, they're not a rollover team like the Sox. And the Tigers really. The only rollover team over the next stretch is really, if you look at the Marlins, maybe the A's and the Nats, there are some bad, and the Rockies, there's a few really bad teams mixed in there, but the good teams they play are the best in baseball. So Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies, that's a difficult stretch. But I like that you put this together as them going on a run against the Tigers and Marlins, because I think if they can do that successfully, then they might be able to go in, let's say, to against Pittsburgh and win that series. That's a tough one. They have not played the NL Central very well. Can they ride that momentum and maybe beat the Phillies, get an extra game out of there? And then that would prevent you from having to sweep, let's say, both the Marlins or the A's or the Nats, like having to be perfect. The way this looks is that the Cubs would have to finish essentially 600 in terms of winning percentage. And that's about as good as they've been in August. So the good news is the streak that they've been on is what they would need to do. But unfortunately, this feels extremely unsustainable. But I mean, good job in putting that together. I don't have any disagreements with what they'd have to do. The compilation might look differently. If you can sneak in a series win against the Dodgers, if their pitching is not healthy, sneak in a series win against the Phillies, then technically, if you look at it, if you don't sweep any of these really bad teams like the Marlins or A's or the Nats, then you have to win every single series 2 out of 3, basically.
Yeah, so, which is difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
It's the offense has to be there. The starting pitching has to continue to be there. The bullpen still has to be,
Yeah.
a top 5 bullpen. A lot of pieces have to come together, but if you're going to be that good, typically playoff teams, aren't terrible. They have at least 2 of those 3 things, going for them. Maybe not a great bullpen, but at least an offense and a starting pitching that's, above league average. So, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a path, like we said. This is typically what, you would expect the Cubs to do in order to make the playoffs at 85 and 77. To help in that regard, if the Cubs take care of business, the Giants and Cardinals ahead of them, and I haven't looked at the Mets schedule necessarily, but the Giants face the Padres and the Brewers twice. So that's 12 difficult games. Like that bullpen in San Diego is like really good.
Yeah.
The Brewers also have, a good offense, good defense, really speedy players. So they faced both of those teams twice. They faced the Diamondbacks, the Royals. They can get hot and they can play good baseball. They've played better baseball obviously this year than they have in the past. And then you get the Orioles. That's the Giants. They face all those teams. Obviously, you could make a case. So yeah, well, the Cubs face, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies. So, but it seems like they have a really difficult schedule. The Cardinals face the Padres 4 times, or in a 4-game set. They face the Yankees. They face Pittsburgh 4 times in a 4-game set. They face the Brewers a total of 6 games, and then the Dodgers and Guardians. And the Cardinals have 16 in a row that they're going to play from late August to early September. I mean, I've seen longer, maybe slightly longer games than that. I mean, it's not incredibly long, but it is long. Usually, you don't go more than like 7 to 8.
10 games maybe.
7 to 8, yeah. 7 to 8 games and then you get like a day off, like on a Thursday or Sunday or something like that.
Monday.
Monday, yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of games in a row, and this is assuming, of course, everybody stays healthy, and injuries can pop up, especially late in the year. So to bullpen pieces, holding up, and so it'll be interesting.
The Cubs do have the easiest strength of schedule remaining of any playoff team at this point, so that's a huge advantage for them. And they do have a lot of off days built into August, the dog days of August.
Right.
They have a lot of those already built in right now,
right?
Which keep them pretty
Today.
fresh. Yeah. Weird off days, but it helps them for sure.
It definitely helps people like Cody Bellinger, that definitely need that. And I think for him, like he was my player that, if I could heal anybody, I would heal him. I think he could really benefit from like a week off. I don't know that they can afford that, but just to get his finger a little bit more healthy and, for the stretch run, I think they should explore that.
That dude needs to play in the field if they want to have any chance. He's got to play right field or center.
Yeah.
And Suzuki's got to be the DH
Yeah.
until we at least know, because Suzuki hasn't been a good defender this year.
No.
So they really need Bellinger to get fully healthy. But you're right. They don't have the time. It's not the All-Star break. You don't have 5 days off to have him rested. So,
in some respects, in hindsight, looking back at it, it's like maybe Jed should have done, should have acquired maybe another slugger or a reliever to go along with, Isaac Paredes. So it's, again, if the deals aren't there though, then they're not there. I know they were in talks with the Angels for Logan O'Hoppe, and they were rumored to have offered a decent package, and the Angels said no. So I mean, that's how much sometimes players or teams value players. It's like he's the future. He's young and he's a great hitter. So I mean, and he catches. So I mean, it's tough. Sometimes you got to pull the trigger though, and you got to give your offense a little bit more support. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, they could have done more, but I think they were almost again on the cusp of buying and selling, unfortunately. So they keep being on the cusp each year, which makes it hard to definitively make a deal. So
yeah, Did you disagree with anything as far as like the series that I was talking about, or
I don't think so.
no?
In essence, you had to win 10 of 13 series.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's and you're hoping, like I said, the Giants and Cardinals,
But
struggle a little bit at least,
the Braves and Mets that are in that third
and
spot
the Mets. Yeah, I forgot about the
both
Mets too.
look like they have a harder strength of schedule remaining than the Cubs. So they are playing teams like the Nats and maybe the Reds, and the Rockies, but they're not playing as many bad teams as us, and they're playing equally as many good teams like the Phillies, the Twins, the Dodgers, and the Mets and Braves play each other.
Mhm.
So yeah, it doesn't help them that they're and the Royals. That's another good team the Braves play. So in essence, the Cubs have the strength of schedule advantage. They just need to take advantage and like get to 85.
Right, handle their business and
Yeah,
win the series that they're supposed to win. And if they can sneak 2 wins out of the Yankees or the Dodgers, I mean, that helps if you're not able to sweep, the Marlins or the Tigers.
yeah.
So any updates, Zach, on the injury front? Or yeah.
So uh, it looks like Jordan Wicks is at least one more start away this upcoming week from potentially getting back onto the big league team. It could be 2 starts. We'll see.
Mhm.
Putting him sort of at the end of August. Brown and Wisniewski, no major updates. Ben Brown has been dealing with neck issues, and I'm thinking it might be closer to September for him.
Yeah.
Wisniewski, I don't really care about because I almost don't want him to return. So if he could hit the 60-day,
Slip in the bathtub type of injury.
he'll probably go back to Iowa. So that is perfectly fine with me. And Ben Brown, I'd love to get back. Like you said, get him in the back of the bullpen, although the bullpen has been good. And the last major injury update is that Cade Horton is now going to be out for the season. Did not recover fast enough, had a setback in Arizona with his shoulder and lat issue, which kind of similar thing happened to Luke Little in that sense.
Yeah.
He was also out for the season. So I know we talked about the minor leagues. Excited for our young guys to get the call-ups. I wanted to present some keys for the Cubs to accomplish that streak, to not only continue their streak, but to get 600 baseball to get them to 85 wins.
Right.
So they need to keep getting what they've been getting out of PCA. He's been pretty hot at the plate in terms of exit velocity. He's scorching the ball and he's fast. So you're seeing him he's got like 6 triples on the year, which is just incredible. For a guy who hasn't played the full season and it's August, he's got 6 triples. I would say play Bethancourt a little bit more. He's been hitting well. He's got a better arm. I think he's going to be a better catcher. You're going to have to work him into whichever pitcher relationship he's the strongest with. Who does he catch the best for? And then some other hitters like Dansby, Nico. We've seen a little bit better from them recently. Can they get closer to like a 700 OPS type season? Dansby's home runs and RBIs are almost at a career low, so he needs to increase his slugging a little bit more too. But we like what they've seen from him recently. And obviously Isak Paredes helps. Take care of business, like we said before, beat those bad teams. You have to put 6 or 7 games in a row together because right now they're almost 500. They cannot afford to stay under 500. They've got to get above 500 this week. And then from then on, once we start playing these really bad teams, you can't go 2-2 or 3-3 against like the Tigers and Marlins or whatever it is. You've got to win a ton more games against those bad teams. This is the time to take advantage. And finally, don't overuse anyone in the bullpen. I shouldn't even need to say that because Craig Counsell's been really good.
Yeah.
I saw Jorge Lopez had a high leverage outing the other day.
He's incredible, man.
Jorge Lopez looks really good. He's got like 4 pitches, nasty sinker, knuckle curve, sweeper. He's really good. Use him, Tyson Miller, and of course, I know Drew Smiley's been good, but Miller and Lopez, maybe elevate them. Don't overuse Neris.
Yeah.
And then if you can get Ben Brown back, and we talked about Wicks, if you can sort of demote Assad to the bullpen, that would be really good because he hasn't been going deep into starts. Get Wicks back. He'll be back first. And if Brown can come back, get him eventually into the higher leverage innings. Porter Hodge is the other name I was thinking of. Hodge and Lopez have been good.
Yeah.
Mix in Brown there, and then a dash of Julian Merriweather to keep your bullpen healthy and happy.
Yeah.
And your tummy feeling good.
Sounds like a good diet.
Good recipe.
Good recipe. Yeah, no notes, as the kids say. Continue, like you said, keep that bullpen fresh. That's a great note on Neris. Keep him fresh as well. Don't overuse him. As you were talking, I was listening, but I was also thinking. And I was thinking about deploying Neris where you get teams that are aggressive, right? You don't want to throw him out there with teams that are really patient. So I think you gotta also watch that because he walks guys, and when he's not getting that swing and miss, it's like you gotta be real careful. So I think if they're careful with just kind of like you said, not overusing him, but also putting him in the right spots for
Right.
teams that are aggressive, I think he'll be just fine. So
And
sometimes he does miss, and I'm like, it's like right over the plate. And I'm like, oh, like the White Sox. There was a few hitters that he missed, like right down the middle and like slightly above the zone. I mean, in the zone, and they just did not they didn't hit it.
Yeah.
And it just makes you nervous. You're like, if there was another team like the Phillies or the Yankees or Dodgers, they're smashing.
Yeah,
They're
I see what
smashing
you're
it.
saying. And put him in against lefties too, because the splitter works well against the lefties. It's a neutralizing type pitch.
Yeah,
It's like a lefty throwing a slider against a lefty.
yeah,
So
yeah,
use him in that advantage, like we were using Mark Leiter, I think.
yeah.
So
Who just gave up like 2 home runs, I guess, the other day or yet today.
right.
In his appearance, I was like, ooh, that's not good. So, all right. Anyways, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us here on the Brotherly Cubs podcast. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, or join the conversation with us on Twitter at Brotherly Cubs or Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm your big brother, John. And that's my little brother.
We always mess this up.
We always mess this up. That's my little brother's. We'll see you next week as we recap the series with the Guardians and check in on their quest for the playoffs in that third wild card spot. Hopefully the Mets lose tonight versus the Mariners. That, of course, is on ESPN. Don't forget to subscribe to Peacock as well. Don't forget
No.
Just kidding. We can't officially say that. But until next time, thanks for tuning into the pod, and we will catch you later. Peace.
Listen to this crowd.